All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Yak. We're back with the tiers with the Western Conference. Last video was Eastern Conference, so now we're doing the Western Conference. I think definitely makes more sense to do it by conference because I think that's who you're directly competing against for, you know, Eastern Finals, Eastern standings, or Western Finals, Western standings. So, I mean, that's who you're competing with in the conference. So, I mean, to get started, it's got to be the Warriors. I feel like they should be even better than last season. Wiseman's coming back. He should be good as a good backup center, even maybe even taking that Looney spot eventually. Kaminga should be better. Moses Moody should be better. They just have a good all around lineup with Steph, Clay, Draymond. Even in light of recent circumstances, recent situation, I feel like their team just has great chemistry, and it's just on another level than most of these other teams. And they obviously proved that last season. Even last season, they won 53 games. Even if Steph and Clay maybe take a little bit step back, I think Poole, Wiseman, Kuminga, they can even pick up the slack in certain games where Steph is resting. But yeah, I feel like that they're the best bet for the one seed and are definitely a finals contender to repeat, especially come out of the Western Conference. Um, the next team, um, I think they're coming back healthy. They're coming back, ready for redemption from maybe 2 years ago when they were in the conference finals, or maybe it was 3 years ago, maybe in the bubble. Technically 2 years ago, but maybe 3 seasons ago in the bubble. Um, but yeah, I mean they have even a better team than then with Aaron Gordon and KCP. Even Bruce Brown from the Nets coming over seems like a good fit with Jokic. I feel like they should have one of the best starting fives in the NBA with Jamal Murray, KCP, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr. when he's healthy, and Nikola Jokic, obviously the reigning MVP, probably top five player in the NBA. So yeah, I expect them to hit the ground running. And if Jokic can carry that team to whatever he did last season, what was it, 48 wins last season with a lot of his guys missing. They should be in that top three race, and definitely do not want to be in the play-in this season. The next team I'd probably say is the LA Clippers. Another team that did okay without their starters. Won 42 games last season, especially without Kawhi for pretty much the whole season, and Paul George for most of the season. Missing those two guys, they still had Reggie Jackson, Luke Kennard, Morris, Marcus Morris, Visa Zubats, and then they added Norman Powell and Robert Covington at the trade deadline. So their squad is really deep. I didn't even mention Terrence Mann. Um, yeah, I mean their squad is the deepest probably in the league. They legitimately have like a super team if everybody's healthy. They almost go like 10, 11 deep in the league, almost every night. So they should be they should be great when healthy. They should be like pushing 55 and 60 wins for that one seed, and give themselves home court advantage, in the playoffs, and throughout the Western playoffs at least, and try to go for that one seed. I feel like they definitely have the capabilities to do it. It just depends how much Ty Lue pushes Kawhi and Paul George to play, because obviously Kawhi doesn't want to play back to backs. Wants to rest that knee for the playoffs. But you know, go for it this season. Play 60 games. Show that the rest of the league that this team is scary. And it can reach the heights that we all expect the Clippers kind of to reach from maybe 2 3 years ago, and even higher than that. But yeah, the next team is probably Phoenix. And as you can see, all four teams believe they are true finals contenders, and maybe even a couple of these other teams believe that they are finals contenders. But we're already four deep, and only four even make it to the second round. Um, so yeah, it just shows how good the top of the West is. Um, but yeah, it's gonna be a fight for that top four seeds. Obviously getting home court advantage in the first round, and then Even the Suns, I mean, they won 64 games last season, so it's hard to see them falling off too much, even with their, chemistry issues or whatever coaching issues, internal issues that they have. Maybe even a team sale that could happen midseason. But Booker's still amazing. Uh, Chris Paul should be pretty good. Gets got some time off um, through the summer, and DeAndre Ayton should be motivated. I feel like, if he wants to really prove that he's the number two guy on this team, I feel like he should play like it and be aggressive this year and maybe even win them a championship and show the coach and the GM that he already got the max contract, but he should still show that he deserved it, and he's not just like a a bench person on the team, not a bench person, but like just as pedestrian, or just wants to be, he really wants to be one of the main guys on the team. But yeah, I think the next, obviously 4 finals contenders. I think we got to go to the next category, and I would probably start with Minnesota. Minnesota, adding Rudy Gobert, adding Kyle Anderson. Obviously, still have Russell and Edwards and Towns. It'll be interesting to see how Finch really divides their minutes between Towns and Gobert, and then Russell and Edwards, because I feel like they want Edwards to have the ball just to grow in that area, be a little bit more dynamic even as a playmaker. But I feel like they should stagger Russell and Gobert's minutes, and then maybe have a unit with Edwards and Towns, just to see how that chemistry builds. But I do think they should figure it out, and at least in the regular season, they should be fighting for that top four. Obviously, I have them at 5, but with Clippers injuries, Denver's injuries, somebody gets injured, they want to be the team that goes into that top 3 or 4, and obviously wants to get out of the first round. Its next team is probably between Dallas and Memphis. The only reason I would give Dallas the edge is that Memphis is missing Jaren Jackson Jr. for most of the season, probably till January or February, and that's a big miss for the Grizzlies. And I like what Dallas did. They added Christian Wood. They're pretty much bringing back Tim Hardaway Jr., who didn't really play much last season because of his injuries. And Dorian Finney-Smith, showed that he's a really good 3-and-D player. Spencer Dinwiddie showed that he's a pretty good 6-man. He can take some of Brunson's minutes from last year, and he should be able to step into that role. And obviously, Luka can be the best player any given night. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the leading scorer in the NBA this season, just with how much usage he has and how much of the ball he has and how much weapons he has around him. Even Christian Wood can step out to the three-point line, so they could run Luka, Dinwiddie, Hardaway Jr., Finney-Smith, and Christian Wood. That's a pretty scary offensive lineup. So yeah, they should be a scary team. And they won what 52 games last season as a 4 seed. So it's hard to see much of a drop off, if not an improvement, at least in wins. However, I think these 4 teams above them in the first category should have all about 50 wins. So, they might be, not might be have the same season, 50-51 wins, but just might be below those top 3-4 teams. The next team I would say is the Memphis Grizzlies. Like I said, technically they are number 7, so they will be in the play-in. Yeah, like I said, they're just missing Jaren Jackson Jr. I do like Desmond Bain, and I feel like he could make a maybe a small jump to maybe borderline all-star level, beyond that reserves team for the Western Conference All-Star team, or however the format is this year. But yeah, I mean, he definitely needs to step up with Jaren Jackson out. They lost Kyle Anderson, they lost D'Anthony Melton, who were pretty key pieces to them actually last season. Tyus Jones is a great backup point guard. It'll be interesting to see who they play with Jaren Jackson Jr. out. They have Santi Aldama, Brandon Clark. Be an interesting lineup. See, they've never really gone small. They always kind of play Jaren Jackson and Steven Adams. It'll be interesting to see, who they play with the wings. Aldama looks a little bit more stretchy, plays the 4, can shoot it. But yeah, Brandon Clark's more of a traditional big man in the paint. So it'll be interesting. It's interesting to see. Obviously, they were the 2 seed last season. They won 56 games, so I'm expecting a little bit of a drop off from that, just with Triple J's absence. Um, it really gets interesting from here because all these teams think they can, they probably make the playoffs, but these are already 7 teams that I have ranked above. Um, the next I would let's go to the bottom tier actually, just to say, eliminate some teams that probably will be tanking. Um, Not even probably, they are tanking because of the moves that they made this season, starting with the Jazz. you know, Obviously giving up Mitchell and Gobert for all the picks that they could get, um, especially in this draft class. They want to be in that top two. Um, Maybe let Colin Sexton cook, see what he can do. Let THT Horton Tucker see what his game develops without all that Lakers noise and mess, whatever was going on over there last season. But yeah, I feel like Conley and Clarkson are candidates probably to get traded, maybe to a contender, just to do them right, because they probably don't want to play on this team, be like role players on this team. So, and then the next tanking team is probably San Antonio. Um, yeah, I mean they obviously gave up Dejounte Murray for some picks. It's going to be the Devin Vassell show, Keldon Johnson. Um, yeah, there's not much really to say about the Spurs. They don't really have anybody close to all-star level or even borderline all-star level. So I don't see how they can be even competing, especially with how stacked the West is. Um, it feels like these teams want to sweep, the Spurs and the Jazz and the Thunder. We can throw the Thunder in there as well. Oklahoma City, yeah, especially without Chet. I mean, he would have gave them a small boost this year, but it really sucks that he got injured and will probably be out for the year. Even if he could come back in February, March, he's probably going to be, they're probably going to take a precaution and rest him. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they, start well, maybe like they did last year. They were like in the 10-11 range in the West, but then, fall off, start resting guys, SGA, uh, let them go home, let them rest for the year. Although they do have Giddy this year, who should be improved. Dort should be getting better. Uh, Even the Williams, both Jalen Williams, they would look like promising young wing players. Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, they definitely want to add probably another piece to their rebuild. Although they are 3-4 years into their rebuild, they still want to add more pieces. Um, but yeah, another team that's probably going to tank is probably the Rockets, just because how good the top of the West is and how good the East was. 1 through 9, 1 through 10. How good the East is. It's just going to be hard for them to get some wins, especially with how young of a team they have with Şengün and Jalen Green and Jabari Smith. I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Green takes like a similar leap to Darius Garland. Borderline All Star, maybe get voted in as a injury reserve, but I feel like it'll just be tough. He doesn't really have the support pieces that Garland had last season with Mobley and Allen, and yeah. But I do think that Rockets should let Jalen Green play make a little bit more. They might trade Kevin Porter Jr. Who knows about that point guard position? But yeah, I mean, if you feel like you got to know what you have in Jalen Green, you got to know what you have in Jabari Smith. So it's, I mean, they're still obviously still in development year, and don't really care about making the plan. As for the other teams, they really do want to make the plan just because of how big of a drought they have, such as the Kings. I think they're going to be fighting for that play-in spot. They did look better with Sabonis and Fox. They look like they had good chemistry together. And then you add Keegan Murray, who looks like a good rookie with a lot of length and good shooting. Malik Monk. You add Harrison Barnes from last season, who was a good player last season. Um, so yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they do make the plan. However, these next 2 teams, um, yeah, it just looks a little bit rocky for them because even Portland, I feel like they have more talent. They just have more established talent. They have Dame. They have Jeremy Grant. They have Nurkic. I like Anthony Simons to make a leap a little bit this year. Um, yeah, I mean they just have a little bit more dynamic scoring. However, I do think the Kings should have a good offense as well. It's just about getting stops, and probably the same scenario for the Portland Trailblazers as well. They should have a good offense if Dame is healthy for most of the year, but it was just going to be about them getting defensive stops. Looks like Gary Payton Jr. Got injured, but he should help them in that regard. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do make the plan. But you know, with all these win now pieces that they have with Grant and Nurkic and obviously Dame, but yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how much Shaden Sharp plays. He was kind of the rookie that didn't really play anywhere last season. He was at Kentucky but never really played. He kind of just started working out on his own. So he is a high level pick. People were saying he should go top five. Um, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much he plays and how much they focus on development and how much if they do. If Dame gets injured, then yeah, they will probably be in the tanking race again. But if Portland can get these wins over the Rockets and the Thunder, Spurs, and the Jazz, um, they should be fighting for that playing spot. And then you have two teams that think they should be better, probably with the Pelicans and the Lakers than last season. Um, yeah, it's tough. I would probably say New Orleans probably has a little bit more, steadiness throughout the roster. They're not just depending on their top guys. As you saw last year, they made the play in without, Zion for the whole year. So Zion coming back should be interesting to see how he meshes with Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum, Herb Jones and Devontae Graham and all those guys, Larry Nance. They're stacked kind of at the forward position. So yeah, I mean it does make sense for them to improve. They have a lot of younger players, but it'll be also interesting to see who takes a little bit of a step back in terms of how much role they have on this team, whether it be McCollum or Ingram. I feel like McCollum fits more with Zion in the way he plays off ball. McCollum can play, better off ball than probably Ingram because Ingram, used to having the ball in his hands, maybe getting to that mid range, getting to the cup. But yeah, I don't see how they're much worse than last season. Um, and I mean, they're probably expecting a bigger improvement, to be honest. And then we have the Lakers, the last team to, be in probably the play-in race because was that 4, 6, yeah, ninth. Um, so yeah, I feel like their peak is, hope is that they probably, get a boost mid-season for some trade, whether it be Buddy Hield or Miles Turner or someone like that. I feel like somebody will come available, just depending on who. Um, whether it be one of these tanking teams from the West or East. So yeah, I mean, you still have AD and LeBron, so I feel like their focus will probably be on keeping them healthy throughout the season and just trying to get to that plan. Because once you get in the plan, I feel like they trust LeBron and AD and Kendrick Nunn and whoever they have to at least win the play-in games. And you never know what can happen in the first round. Although you will be matched up with one of these 4 or 5 teams, and it doesn't look like this Lakers team as it is right now can compete with any of those top 4 or 5 teams, top 6 to be honest, maybe even top 7 if you include Memphis in that. As it is right now, but I mean they just want to trust. They just trust basically LeBron and AD to get them over the hump. Um, but yeah, as you can see, like these 4 teams will be the probably the ones to get out of the first round in the playoffs, and these 5 teams probably think they also can get out of the first round of the playoffs. Especially after last season, Dallas making the conference finals, beating Phoenix last season, and Minnesota wants to improve. Memphis wants to improve on last season, and New Orleans really trusting their guys too. So it will be interesting to see how much fighting there is between the 4, 5, 6, 7 spots, because you obviously want home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs, and you don't want to match up against any of these maybe top three teams. Maybe if the Clippers are not healthy, maybe they slide down a bit. But like I said, it's going to be a tough Western Conference. It's going to be a lot of these teams will be disappointed about where they are in the standings by the end of the season. But yeah, I think that's it for the Western tiers. Let me know what you guys think. I think we're planning to do an NBA wins pool on Monday, so it should be interesting to see how much the other guys share my thinking on these teams. Um, but yeah, thanks for listening to the podcast or listening to the video. Like and subscribe to the channel. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, we'll see you guys on Monday. See ya.